Deep in the tangled woods of Illinois, under the cover of night and cold rain, a team of police officers trudges through mud and fallen branches. Their flashlights cut through the darkness. They are looking for a body, the body of 17-year-old Ashley Reeves, and the man leading them to that body is the very person who claims he killed her. Detective after detective, their boots sinking into wet earth, their breath visible in the frigid air. They have been walking for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. The woods seem endless. The suspect, 26-year-old Samson Shelton, a high school teacher and aspiring professional wrestler, cannot remember exactly where he left her. He keeps stopping, looking around, shaking his head. The detectives begin to wonder if this is just another lie, another game, another manipulation from a man who has lied to them for 12 straight hours. But then, a flashlight beam lands on something in a small clearing, something that makes every heart stop, a body. Lying on the ground, motionless, covered in insect bites. The pale face of Ashley Reeves, the girl who has been missing for more than 30 hours. The girl this man strangled and left here to die alone in the woods. One detective steps closer. His camera is rolling. He shines his light directly on her face. And then, something happens that no one in that forest will ever forget. Her chest rises, just slightly. But it rises, and one detective screams into the darkness. Oh my God, she is alive. This is the story of Ashley Reeves. A story of betrayal, of unspeakable violence, of a predator hiding behind a teacher's smile, and of a survival so miraculous that even the paramedics who rushed to save her did not believe she would make it out of those woods alive. This is a case where every single clue mattered, where a grandmother's love broke a killer's facade, where 30 hours of cold darkness could not extinguish the will to live. If you appreciate in-depth coverage of cases like this, I would be grateful if you would subscribe. It helps me continue researching and sharing these important stories. Before that horrific night in April of 2006, Ashley Reeves was living the life of an ordinary Midwestern teenager. She was 17 years old, a junior at a high school in Millstadt, Illinois, a small town where everyone knew everyone. She was an excellent student, the kind of daughter every parent dreams of. Motivated, responsible, kind. She had plans for her future. She knew exactly where she was going in life, and she was determined to get there. Ashley's younger sister, Casey, looked up to her in every way. Ashley was strong. She was confident. She had a wide circle of friends and she was always out doing something. Whether it was studying for exams, spending time with her boyfriend, or just hanging out with her friends, Ashley's life was full. She was dedicated to school. She did not give her parents much trouble. She followed the rules. She came home on time. She was, in every sense of the word, a good kid. Ashley also had a steady boyfriend. His name was Jeremy Smith. He was wholesome, forthright, and he seemed to adore Ashley. Her parents approved of him. He was the kind of young man you could trust, the kind who would never hurt their daughter. Ashley and Jeremy saw each other almost every day. They were serious. They were planning a future together. Jeremy would later tell police that he loved Ashley deeply, that he would do anything to get her back, and there was no reason to doubt him. But there was something about Ashley's life that her family did not fully understand, something she had kept hidden. Ashley had been meeting someone else, someone much older, someone who should have known better, someone who had power over her in ways that went far beyond age. That someone was a 26-year-old teacher named Samson Shelton, and Ashley had told her friends that she was romantically involved with him. She had told them she was supposed to meet him on the afternoon she disappeared. Her friends knew, but her family did not. Not yet. On the surface, Ashley seemed like she had everything under control, but beneath that surface, cracks were forming. She was trying to end the relationship with Shelton. She was trying to pull away. She was trying to go back to her normal life with Jeremy, with her family, with her future ahead of her. But Samson Shelton was not the kind of man who let go easily. And on one terrible Thursday afternoon in April, those cracks would split wide open. The ordinary life of Ashley Reeves, the bright and funny high school junior with dreams and plans and people who loved her, was about to be shattered in the most violent way imaginable. Samson Shelton was not what he appeared to be. On the outside, he seemed like the perfect all-American guy. He was 26 years old, tall and athletic, with bright blue eyes and a charming smile. He worked as a driver's education teacher and a gym coach at a high school in the area. Students liked him. He was the cool teacher, the one who joked around, the one who seemed to genuinely care. He had been a student teacher not long before, and even then, girls would whisper about how cute he was. He knew he was good-looking. He knew how to use that charm to his advantage. But Samson Shelton had another life, another identity. Outside of school, he called himself the teacher. Not in the classroom sense. In the wrestling ring, Shelton was an aspiring professional wrestler. He trained hard. He built his body into that of an athlete. He practiced moves. He learned how to put someone in a chokehold, how to apply pressure to the neck, how to make someone submit, how to make someone stop breathing. He thought of himself as tough, as powerful, as someone who could control a situation with his bare hands. And he was right. Shelton lived with his mother and his grandmother in Illinois. His grandmother, in particular, was important to him. She had raised him with strong values. She had taught him right from wrong. She had given him love and guidance. And deep down, even as he made choices that betrayed everything she taught him, he still cared what she thought. He still wanted her approval. That connection to his grandmother would become the key to breaking him. At some point, Samson Shelton met Ashley Reeves. The exact details of how their relationship began are not entirely clear. But what is known is this. Shelton was 9 years older than Ashley. He was in a position of authority. He was a teacher. She was a high school student. Even if she was not his student directly, the power imbalance was undeniable. And Shelton took advantage of that. He told people they were just friends, that they played basketball together, that it was innocent. But it was not innocent. It was a secret. It was manipulation. It was a grown man pursuing a teenage girl. Shelton would later admit to police that they had a sexual relationship. He admitted that it happened in the back of his vehicle. He admitted that he felt terrible about it afterward. But he did not stop. He kept calling her. He kept meeting her. And when Ashley started to pull away, when she started to realize that this relationship was wrong, when she tried to end it, Samson Shelton could not accept that. He could not accept losing control. He could not accept rejection from a 17-year-old girl. And that refusal to let go would lead him to do something unthinkable. On the outside, Samson Shelton was a teacher, a coach, a wrestler, a grandson. But on the inside, he was something far darker. He was a predator, a manipulator, a man who believed he could take what he wanted and walk away without consequences. And on one April afternoon, in a moment of rage and control, he would reveal exactly what kind of man he truly was. The relationship between Ashley Reeves and Samson Shelton was built on secrecy. They would meet in parks. They would talk on the phone. They would see each other away from the eyes of her family, away from her boyfriend, away from anyone who might ask questions. Ashley told her friends that she was involved with an older man. She did not give them all the details, but they knew. They knew it was complicated. They knew it was risky, and they knew Ashley was trying to figure out how to end it. Shelton, on the other hand, would later tell police a different story. He claimed that Ashley was obsessed with him. He claimed that she called him constantly. He claimed that he was the one trying to break it off. He painted himself as the victim of a teenage girl's infatuation. But the truth, as it so often does, lay somewhere else entirely. And the truth was far more sinister than Shelton wanted anyone to believe. By April of 2006, Ashley had made a decision. She wanted out. She wanted to go back to her normal life. She wanted to focus on Jeremy, on school, on her future. She wanted to put this mistake behind her. And so she agreed to meet Shelton one more time, to talk, to end things properly. She told her mother she was going to a job interview in Fairview Heights, a town about 15 miles from her home. She borrowed Jeremy's SUV, she got dressed. She left the house, and she drove to meet Samson Shelton. What happened during that meeting is something only Shelton can fully describe. But based on his confession, we know this. They talked. They argued. Ashley told him it was over. She wanted to end the relationship. She wanted to move on, and Shelton could not handle it. He could not handle the rejection. He could not handle losing control over her. And in that moment, something inside him snapped. It was a Thursday afternoon, April of 2006. Ashley Reeves climbed into Samson Shelton's car. She thought they were going to talk. She thought they were going to end things like adults. She thought she would be home in time for dinner. She had no idea that she was sitting next to a man who had already decided what he was going to do. According to Shelton's confession, they got into an argument. Ashley made it clear she wanted to end the relationship. She wanted to leave. She wanted out of the car. And Shelton refused to let her go. He claims he panicked. He claims he did not know what to do. But what he did next was not panic. It was violence. It was an attempt at murder. Shelton grabbed Ashley. He used a wrestling move he had practiced countless times. A chokehold. He wrapped his arm around her neck and applied pressure. Ashley struggled. She fought. But Shelton was stronger. He was trained. He knew exactly what he was doing. And then he heard it. A pop. The sound of her neck cracking. Ashley went limp. Her body stopped fighting. And for a moment, Shelton thought it was over. But it was not over. Ashley was still breathing. She was unconscious, but she was alive. And Shelton, instead of calling for help, instead of trying to save her, made a choice. He decided to finish what he had started. He drove her to Lederman Park in Belleville, Illinois. He dragged her into the woods, deep into the woods where no one would find her. And there, in a small clearing surrounded by trees, he strangled her again. This time, he used a belt. He wrapped it around her neck. He pulled. He used his foot for leverage, pressing down, choking as hard as he could. The belt broke, so he repositioned. He tried again. He choked her until she stopped breathing, until there was no more movement, no more sound. And then, convinced that she was dead, Samson Shelton stood up. He looked down at the body of Ashley Reeves. And he ran. He left her there, in the dirt, in the cold, surrounded by insects and darkness. He left her to die. He left her as if she were nothing. As if her life, her dreams, her family, her future meant absolutely nothing. And then he went line dancing. Yes, that very night, just hours after strangling a 17-year-old girl and leaving her for dead in the woods. Samson Shelton went to Wild Country Dance Club. He put on his boots. He danced. He smiled. He acted as if nothing had happened. As if he had not just committed one of the most cold-blooded acts imaginable. Think about that for a moment. What kind of person does this? What kind of person strangles a teenage girl, leaves her in the woods, and then goes dancing? What kind of monster hides behind a teacher's smile? Ashley Reeves did not come home that night. Her curfew was 10 o'clock. 10:30 came and went. Her parents started calling. Her sister Casey started texting. "Where are you? Are you okay? Did the interview go well?" But there was no answer. No response. No sign of Ashley. And that was unusual. Very unusual. Because Ashley always answered. She always let people know where she was. She was responsible. She followed the rules. And now, she was just gone. By 11 o'clock, Ashley's mother was in a panic. She called the police. She told them her daughter was missing. She told them something was wrong. Very wrong. Police get calls like this all the time. Most of them turn out to be nothing. A teenager staying out too late with friends. A miscommunication. A dead phone battery. But the lead detective, listening to the fear in this mother's voice, knew immediately that this call was different. He told his captain, "This one sounds different. I think we need to run with this one right away." Within hours, police found Jeremy's SUV, the one Ashley had been driving. It was parked at Lederman Park in Belleville. Inside the vehicle, they found Ashley's clothes, the outfit she had planned to wear to her job interview, basketball clothes, her belongings, but no Ashley. The car was abandoned, empty. And now the police knew for certain. This was not a case of a teenager staying out too late. This was something far worse. Investigators immediately began interviewing everyone in Ashley's life. Her family, her friends, her classmates, and of course her boyfriend, Jeremy Smith. Jeremy was brought in for questioning. He sat down in the interrogation room, visibly upset, tears in his eyes. He told detectives he loved Ashley. He would do anything to get her back. He had been out of town the night she disappeared, playing in his uncle's band at a bar in Stratford. He had an alibi. He had witnesses. And the detectives believed him. Jeremy did not know what had happened to Ashley, but he did give them something. A clue. A name. Jeremy told detectives that the last time he spoke to Ashley was around noon on the day she disappeared. She told him she was going to a job interview. And then she said she was going to play basketball. Basketball. The detectives looked at each other. Why would a young woman drive 15 miles to play basketball in a park far from her school? It did not make sense. Unless she was meeting someone? A friend of Ashley's confirmed what the detectives suspected. Ashley often met a man in the park to play basketball. His name was Samson Shelton. He was a teacher, a coach, 26 years old. The detectives knew they had to talk to him. But at that point, Shelton was considered only a minor lead. Just a friend. Someone who played basketball with Ashley. Nothing more. They had no idea what they were about to uncover. Meanwhile, Ashley's family was desperately searching for her. Casey remembers driving around in her mother's car, calling every single number on the phone bill. Every number, trying to find someone, anyone, who might know where Ashley was. And then one number kept appearing, over and over. Casey's mom said, "Okay, call it. See who it is." Casey called, and a man answered. His name was Sam Shelton. Casey's mom spoke to him that night. She asked if he had seen Ashley. And Shelton, cool as ice, said no. He had not heard from her. He had not seen her. He hung up like it was no big deal, like a 17-year-old girl was not missing, like he did not have a care in the world. But the police were not going to let it go that easily. They pulled Samson Shelton out of baseball practice the next day. They brought him in for questioning. And what happened next would become one of the most intense and revealing interrogations in the history of this case. Samson Shelton walked into the police station confident, calm, cooperative. He smiled. He shook hands. He sat down in the interrogation room like he was having a casual conversation with old friends. And in a way he was, because Samson Shelton knew some of these detectives. He had been part of the Law Enforcement Explorer Post, a program for young people interested in police work. Part of the Boy Scouts, he had been mentored by some of these very men, and now he was sitting across from them as a suspect in a missing person case. The detectives started gently. They asked Shelton about his relationship with Ashley. He told them they were friends, just friends. They played basketball together. That was it. Nothing more. He said he gave her a hug goodbye sometimes, but it was not sexual. It was just friendly. He was cooperative, friendly. He seemed genuinely concerned about Ashley. He said he wanted to help. He wanted to find her too, but the detectives were not buying it. They had talked to Ashley's friends. They knew there was more to the story. They pressed him, and slowly, Shelton's story began to change. First, he admitted that maybe the relationship went a little further than just friendship. Then he admitted they had kissed. Then he admitted they had sex. In the back of his vehicle. He said he felt terrible about it. He said it was a mistake. But he kept changing his story. Every time the detectives caught him in a lie, he adjusted. He adapted. He manipulated. The detectives knew they were dealing with someone who was very good at lying. Someone who was trying to control the narrative. Someone who was hoping this would all just go away. But it was not going away. And the more Shelton talked, the more the detectives knew he was hiding something big. Then came the second revelation. Shelton admitted that Ashley had been in his car the day before, the day she disappeared. He said they had an argument. He said she wanted to end the relationship. He said he left her on the side of the road, on Radio Range Road. He said she was screaming, kicking. He said he just drove off and left her there, but he insisted she was alive. He insisted he did not hurt her. He said he just left her on the side of the road and drove away. The detectives were stunned. You left a 17-year-old girl on the side of the road? And you did not check on her? You did not call her? You went line dancing that night instead? Shelton's excuse was as pathetic as it was unbelievable. He said he could not drive back to check on her because he was afraid he might see her dead body. He said he had a weak stomach. He said he could not handle gore. He even referenced a horror movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He said if he saw Ashley lying on the side of the road, it would haunt him. So he just did not look. The detectives hammered at him for hours. They caught him in lie after lie. But Shelton would not break. He stuck to his story. Ashley was alive when he left her. He did not know what happened to her after that. And at several points during the interrogation, the detectives thought they were going to lose him. They thought he was never going to confess. They thought he was going to walk out of that room and they would never find Ashley. But then fate intervened. During a bathroom break, Shelton ran into Detective Stephen Johnson. Johnson was the lead detective on the case, and he was also someone Shelton knew. Johnson had been an advisor in the Law Enforcement Explorer Post. He had mentored Shelton. He knew Shelton's family. He knew his grandmother. And Johnson saw an opportunity. Johnson took over the interrogation. He sat down across from Shelton, and he did something the other detectives had not done. He appealed to Shelton's conscience. He appealed to his family. He appealed to his grandmother. He said, "Sam, tell me about the mistake that was made." He said, "If I went and talked to your grandma right now, what would she say?" And for the first time, real tears began to fall from Samson Shelton's eyes. Johnson left the room. He left Shelton alone with his thoughts, alone with his guilt, alone with the image of his grandmother's face. And when Johnson came back, Shelton was ready. He was broken. He looked up at the detective and said, "Can I go show you what happened?" Johnson asked, "Is she still out there, Sam?" And Shelton nodded. "Yes, she is. And I have to show you." After more than 12 hours of interrogation, Samson Shelton finally confessed. He agreed to take the detectives to the woods, to the place where he had left Ashley Reeves, to the body he was certain was lying there, cold and dead. The detectives had no idea they were about to witness a miracle. It was dark. It was raining. It was cold. The kind of night where you can see your breath in the air, where every step through the woods feels heavy and foreboding. A team of police officers, along with Samson Shelton, entered Laderman Park. They walked into the woods, deep into the woods. Shelton said he knew where he had left her. But now, in the darkness, surrounded by trees that all looked the same, he could not remember exactly where. They walked for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. The detectives were getting frustrated. Was this another lie? Another manipulation? Was Shelton just leading them on a wild goose chase? Some of them began to wonder if Ashley was even out here at all. Maybe Shelton had hidden her somewhere else. Maybe this was just another layer of his sick game. But then, a flashlight beam swept across a small clearing, and someone saw something. A body, lying on the ground, on her back, motionless. It was Ashley Reeves. She was covered in insect bites. Thousands of them. She had been lying there for more than 30 hours. Exposed to the elements, alone, in the dark. The detectives' hearts sank. They had found her, but they were too late. One detective stepped closer. He shone his light on her face. Her skin was pale, almost gray, and then something impossible happened. Her chest moved, just slightly, but it moved. She took a breath, and the detective screamed. "Oh my God! Oh my God! She is alive. Ashley, can you hear me? Can you see my light? Ashley, can you talk to me? Oh my God." Paramedics were called immediately. They raced into the woods. They reached Ashley and began working on her. But even as they tried to stabilize her, they told the detectives they did not think she was going to make it. She had been strangled. Her neck was broken. She had been lying in the cold for 30 hours. The odds of survival were almost zero. But Ashley Reeves was still breathing, still fighting, still alive. Back at the police station, Detective Johnson sat down with Samson Shelton to hear his full confession. And what Shelton described was so cold, so calculated, so devoid of empathy, that it shocked even the most experienced investigators. Shelton explained, in a calm and almost detached voice, exactly what he had done. He said he and Ashley got into an argument. She wanted to end the relationship. He could not accept that. So he put her in a wrestling chokehold. He squeezed. He heard her neck pop. She went limp. But she was still breathing. So he panicked. He drove her to the park. He dragged her into the woods. And then he strangled her with a belt. He wrapped it around her neck. He pulled. He used his foot for leverage. He choked as hard as he could. The belt broke. So he repositioned. He tried again. He choked until she stopped breathing. And then Shelton said something that revealed just how little he cared about what he had done. He asked the detective if he could get his contact solution. He asked if he could take his contacts out. He asked if he could have a toothbrush. He complained about not being able to use the bathroom because he had a urinary stress disorder. He was more concerned about his own comfort than about the fact that he had just tried to murder a 17-year-old girl. The detectives were stunned. This was not remorse. This was not guilt. This was a man who saw himself as the victim. A man who thought he could talk his way out of this. A man who believed his own lies. Samson Shelton was arrested and charged with attempted first-degree murder. He made bail. And while awaiting trial, he did something that shocked investigators even further. He attempted suicide. He ingested a lethal cocktail of prescription pills and Jägermeister. When emergency medical technicians arrived to save him, he punched them. He spat at them. He had writing on his chest that said, "Do not save me. Do not resuscitate me." But detectives did not believe this was a genuine suicide attempt. They believed it was another manipulation. Another attempt to gain sympathy. Another act in the performance of Samson Shelton. Eventually, Shelton pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and the monster who called himself the teacher was finally locked away. Ashley Reeves survived. But survival was only the beginning of her battle. When she was found in the woods, she was barely alive. Her neck was broken. Her body was shutting down. She had been starved of oxygen for too long. The damage to her brain was severe. Paramedics did not think she would live long enough to reach the hospital, but Ashley did. She held on. She fought. For days, Ashley remained in a coma. Her family sat by her bedside, praying, hoping, begging for her to wake up. Her younger sister Casey remembers seeing her for the first time after the attack. She was terrified. Ashley was in a neck brace. The room felt empty. Ashley just lay there, motionless. She could not talk. She could not move. She could not even look at her sister. Casey stood there staring, feeling helpless, feeling like she had lost her sister forever. But slowly, Ashley began to wake up. It took weeks. It took months. Her brain was processing the trauma over and over. She had to relearn how to eat, how to drink, how to speak, how to walk. Every single basic function had to be retrained. Ashley remembers her first drink of water after waking up. She said it was amazing. That simple act, something most of us take for granted every single day. For Ashley, it was a victory. The physical recovery was long and grueling, but the emotional recovery was even harder. Ashley could not remember the attack. She could not remember the days leading up to it. She could not remember anything about that terrible afternoon in the woods. And part of her did not want to remember. Part of her was afraid that if she did remember, it would destroy her all over again. Years later, Ashley watched parts of Samson Shelton's interrogation. She forced herself to see it, to hear his voice, to hear his lies. But she could only make it about 1 minute and 30 seconds before she had to turn it off. She was upset by his lies, by the things he said that she knew were not true, by the way he tried to justify what he did, by the complete lack of remorse in his voice. She could not watch anymore. It was too much. Ashley also watched the video of the night she was found, the video of the police walking through the woods, the video of the flashlights landing on her body, the video of the moment they realized she was alive. She watched it to see where she started, to see how far she had come. But when she saw the position she was lying in, when she saw the place where she had been left to die, it was overwhelming. It was heartbreaking, because she had always thought of Sam as her friend, and to know what he did, to see it, that was almost too much to bear. Today, Ashley Reeves has rebuilt her life. She has 2 children. She has a job. She is attending school. She is busy. She is moving forward. But the scars remain. Not just the physical scars, though those are there too, but the emotional scars. The scars of knowing that someone she trusted tried to kill her. The scars of knowing that she lost days, weeks, months of her life to recovery. The scars of knowing that she will never fully remember what happened to her in those woods. But Ashley is a fighter. She always has been. And she refuses to let what happened to her define her. She refuses to give up. She continues to push herself, to challenge herself, to live her life on her own terms. And she has a message for anyone who is struggling. For anyone who feels like giving up, do not give up. Do not ever give up on yourself. There are bigger, better things out there. Keep fighting. Every day is a struggle. But you just have to keep going. The case of Ashley Reeves is not just a story of survival. It is a story of power, of manipulation, of the dangers that hide behind friendly faces and charming smiles. It is a story that forces us to ask difficult questions. Questions about trust, about authority, about the vulnerabilities of young people who do not yet fully understand the predators who walk among them. Samson Shelton was a teacher, a coach, someone in a position of trust and authority, and he used that position to prey on a teenage girl. The power imbalance in their relationship was undeniable. Ashley was 17, Shelton was 26. He was older, he was stronger, he was in control. And when Ashley tried to take that control back, when she tried to end the relationship and reclaim her life, Shelton could not accept it. He could not accept that a teenage girl had the power to say no to him. And so he tried to take everything from her. Her voice, her future, her life. But Ashley survived. Against all odds. Against every expectation. She survived. And her survival is a testament to the strength of the human body and the human spirit. 30 hours in the cold. With a broken neck. With severe brain damage. With no food, no water, no help. And still she held on. Still she fought. Still she lived. The paramedics did not think she would make it out of the woods. But she did. The doctors did not think she would wake up. But she did. And today she is here. She is alive. She is thriving. This case also teaches us about the importance of never giving up. Not as investigators. Not as family members. Not as survivors. Ashley's family never stopped searching for her. The detectives never stopped interrogating Samson Shelton, even when it seemed like he would never confess. And Ashley herself never stopped fighting, even when her body was broken and her mind was lost in darkness. That refusal to give up saved her life, and it serves as a lesson for all of us. We must also recognize the skill and dedication of the investigators who worked this case. Detective Stephen Johnson in particular understood that breaking Samson Shelton would require more than just facts and evidence. It would require emotion. It would require reaching into Shelton's conscience if he had one, and finding the one thing that mattered to him, his grandmother, his family, the values he had been taught as a child. Johnson used those values to reach him. He made Shelton see himself through his grandmother's eyes. And that was what finally broke him. That was what led them to Ashley. That was what saved her life. But this case also leaves us with questions. Questions about how someone like Samson Shelton could hide his true nature for so long. How he could be a mentor to young people in the law enforcement explorer post, while secretly pursuing a sexual relationship with a teenager. How he could strangle a girl, leave her for dead, and then go line dancing as if nothing had happened. These are questions that do not have easy answers. They force us to confront the uncomfortable reality that evil does not always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like a teacher, a coach, a friend. We must also talk about the long-term impact of trauma. Ashley survived, yes, but her life was forever changed. She lost memories. She lost time. She lost a sense of safety that most of us take for granted. She had to relearn basic functions. She had to rebuild her sense of self. And even today, years later, she still struggles. She still has moments where the weight of what happened crashes down on her. She still has scars, both physical and emotional, that will never fully heal. Survival is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new and often very difficult chapter. But Ashley has chosen to share her story. She has chosen to speak out. She has chosen to let the world know what happened to her and how she survived. And that takes incredible courage. Because reliving trauma, Talking about it, allowing others to see your pain, is one of the hardest things a person can do. But Ashley does it because she knows her story can help others. She knows that someone, somewhere, might be in a similar situation, might be trapped in a relationship with someone who has power over them, might be struggling to find the strength to break free, and she wants them to know that it is possible, that survival is possible, that there is life on the other side of trauma. Elizabeth Smart, a survivor herself, interviewed Ashley years after the attack. Elizabeth understands better than most what it means to be a victim of violence, to survive against impossible odds, to rebuild your life from the ashes of trauma. And when she spoke with Ashley, she saw in her the same strength, the same determination, the same refusal to be defined by what happened to her. Elizabeth asked Ashley if she had seen the interrogation videos. Ashley admitted she had tried, but could only watch for a minute and a half before the lies and the lack of remorse became too much. Elizabeth asked if Ashley had seen the video of her rescue. Ashley said yes. She watched it to see where she started, to understand how far she had come, to give herself a sense of strength and perspective. But seeing herself lying there, broken and alone, was heartbreaking. It was too much, and yet Ashley went back to that place. Years later, she returned to the woods where she was left to die. She brought Elizabeth with her. She walked through those trees. She stood in that clearing, and she faced her trauma head on. That takes a level of bravery that most of us cannot even imagine. To go back to the place where you almost died. To stand where you lay broken and alone for 30 hours. To look at the trees and the ground and the sky and remember, or try to remember, what it felt like to be there. That is courage. That is strength. That is survival in its purest form. Ashley Reeves is a walking miracle, a living testament to the power of the human will. And her story, as horrifying as it is ultimately a story of hope. Hope that even in the darkest moments, even when all seems lost, there is still a chance. There is still a fight. There is still life. Ashley Reeves could have died in those woods. She should have died, by all medical logic and expectation. Her injuries were catastrophic. Her body had been pushed beyond its limits. The cold alone should have killed her. The lack of oxygen to her brain should have left her in a permanent vegetative state. The broken neck should have paralyzed her for life. But none of those things happened. Ashley defied every single medical prediction. She survived. She recovered. She rebuilt her life from nothing, and perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. That the human spirit, when faced with unimaginable darkness, has the capacity to endure, to persist, to overcome. Ashley did not choose what happened to her. She did not choose to be strangled and left for dead. She did not choose to spend 30 hours alone in the cold, fighting for every breath. But she did choose to survive. She did choose to keep fighting. She did choose to reclaim her life. And that choice, that determination, that refusal to surrender, is what makes her story so powerful. We must also acknowledge the role that Ashley's family played in her survival. Her mother, who knew immediately that something was wrong, who trusted her instincts and called the police right away, who refused to believe that Ashley had just stayed out too late. Her sister Casey, who called every number on the phone bill, desperate to find any clue, any lead, any hope. Her boyfriend Jeremy, who cooperated fully with police even though it must have been painful to answer their questions, to be treated as a suspect, to imagine what might have happened to the girl he loved. They never stopped searching. They never stopped believing. And their refusal to give up kept the investigation moving forward. This case also highlights the importance of thorough police work. The detectives in this case did everything right. They took the initial missing person report seriously, even though most such reports turn out to be nothing. They followed every lead, no matter how small. They interviewed everyone in Ashley's life, building a complete picture of her movements and relationships. They caught Samson Shelton in lie after lie, never letting him off the hook, never accepting his ever-changing stories. And when it came time to break him, Detective Johnson used psychology, empathy, and a deep understanding of human nature to find the one weakness that would make Shelton confess. Without that level of dedication and skill, Ashley might never have been found. She might still be lying in those woods, her story untold, her killer walking free. But there is a darker lesson here as well. A lesson about the dangers of power imbalances in relationships. Samson Shelton was not Ashley's teacher directly, but he was a teacher. He was an adult in a position of authority. He was someone who should have known better. Someone who should have protected young people, not preyed on them. The 9-year age difference between Ashley and Shelton might not seem like much to some people. But when one person is 17 and the other is 26, when one is still in high school and the other is a teacher and coach, that age difference represents a canyon of power, experience, and control. Shelton knew that. He exploited that. And when Ashley tried to assert her own power, her own choice, her own voice, Shelton responded with violence. This is not an isolated case. Across the world, young people, especially young women, are targeted by older individuals in positions of authority. Teachers, coaches, mentors, family, friends. People who seem trustworthy. People who seem safe. People who use their charm, their position, their experience to manipulate and control. And when those young people try to break free, the consequences can be deadly. Ashley Reeves was lucky. She survived, but so many others do not. So many others are silenced forever. And that is why it is so important to talk about these cases, to shine a light on these predators, to make it clear that this behavior is not acceptable, that it will not be tolerated, that it will be punished. The story of Ashley Reeves also reminds us of the warning signs we must never ignore. When a young person becomes secretive about a relationship, when they are meeting someone they do not talk about with their family, when there are unexplained absences or changes in behavior, when friends know something that parents do not. These are red flags. These are moments when we must pay attention, when we must ask questions, when we must create safe spaces for young people to tell us the truth without fear of judgment or punishment. Ashley's friends knew about Samson Shelton. They knew she was meeting him. They knew she was involved with him. But they did not tell her parents, and that is not their fault. Young people often feel caught between loyalty to their friends and doing what is right. They worry about getting their friends in trouble. They worry about breaking trust. They worry that maybe they are overreacting. We must teach young people that some secrets are too dangerous to keep. That when a friend is involved with someone much older, someone in a position of power, someone who makes them uncomfortable, it is okay to tell a trusted adult. It is okay to break that confidence, because sometimes telling that secret can save a life. Consider also the role of intuition in this case. Ashley's mother knew something was wrong immediately. She did not wait. She did not second-guess herself. She did not tell herself she was being overprotective or paranoid. She trusted her gut. She called the police. And that quick action set everything else in motion. It gave investigators a head start. It meant that when Samson Shelton was finally brought in for questioning, it was within hours of Ashley's disappearance, not days or weeks later. That timing mattered. That urgency mattered. And it all started with a mother who knew her daughter and trusted her instincts when something felt wrong. There is also something to be said about the resilience required not just to survive, but to live after survival. Ashley had to wake up in a hospital bed and face a reality where she could not walk, could not talk, could not remember. She had to go through months of rehabilitation. She had to relearn everything, and then she had to make a choice. She could let this define her. She could retreat from the world. She could live in fear and anger and pain. Or she could fight. She could rebuild. She could reclaim her life. And that is what she chose. Every single day, she chose to keep going. That choice is not easy. Trauma does not just go away because you want it to. Recovery is not a straight line. There are setbacks. There are days when the weight of it all feels unbearable. There are moments when the simplest tasks feel impossible. But Ashley kept pushing. She kept working. She kept believing that there was something on the other side of all that pain. And she was right. Today, she has a family. She has children. She has a future. She has a life that Samson Shelton tried to take from her, and she refused to let him have it. The case of Ashley Reeves also forces us to think about justice. Samson Shelton was sentenced to 20 years in prison for attempting to murder a 17-year-old girl, for strangling her twice, for leaving her in the woods to die, for showing no remorse, for lying repeatedly, for manipulating everyone around him. 20 years. Some people believe that is not enough. Some people believe he should have received a life sentence. Others point out that attempted murder, legally speaking, carries a different sentence than murder itself. But regardless of the legal technicalities, the question remains. Is 20 years justice for what he did? Ashley herself has had to grapple with this question. She has had to think about the man who tried to kill her eventually walking free. She has had to imagine him back in the world, while she continues to live with the consequences of his actions every single day. That is another burden survivors carry. The knowledge that their attackers will one day be released. The fear of what that might mean. The anger at the unfairness of it all. But Ashley has also found a way to move beyond the need for revenge. She has found a way to focus on her own life, her own healing, her own future, rather than remaining tied to Samson Shelton's fate. That does not mean she has forgiven him. That does not mean she thinks what he got was fair. It simply means she has chosen not to let him continue to control her life from behind bars. She has chosen freedom. Real freedom. The kind that comes from deciding that your life is more important than your anger. That your future is more valuable than your past. This is not a message that everyone is ready to hear. And that is okay. Every survivor's journey is different. Some find peace in forgiveness. Others find strength in anger. Some need to see their attackers punished to the fullest extent of the law. Others need to never think about them again. There is no right way to survive. There is no correct way to heal. There is only your way. And whatever that looks like for you, it is valid. It is real. It is enough. What we can all take from Ashley's story is this. Life can change in an instant. The person sitting across from you in a car, the person you think you know, the person you trust, they can become a stranger. They can become a threat. They can become a nightmare. And in that moment, everything you thought you knew about the world can shatter. But even in that shattering, even in that darkness, even when every odd is against you, there is still a chance. There is still hope. There is still the possibility of a miracle. Ashley Reeves lay in those woods for 30 hours. 30 hours of cold, of darkness, of pain, of fighting a body that was shutting down, of holding on when there was no reason to believe anyone would come. And yet she held on. Her body held on. Her spirit held on. And when that flashlight beam finally found her, when that detective screamed into the darkness that she was alive, it was not luck. It was not chance. It was the result of 1,000 tiny moments of not giving up, of one more breath, of one more heartbeat, of refusing to let go. We will never fully understand what Ashley experienced in those 30 hours. She cannot remember it, and perhaps that is a mercy, but we can honor it. We can recognize it. We can stand in awe of the sheer force of will it took to survive, and we can carry that with us. We can remember that when things seem impossible, when the darkness feels overwhelming, when every voice tells us to give up, there is still a reason to hold on. There is still a reason to fight. There is still a reason to believe that morning will come. Ashley Reeves is not just a survivor. She is a testament, a living reminder that the human spirit is stronger than we know, that our bodies are more resilient than we give them credit for, that even in our darkest hour, even when we are alone and broken and left for dead, there is still something inside us that refuses to quit, that chooses life, that chooses hope, that chooses to take one more breath. This is the story of Ashley Reeves, a story of betrayal and violence and unimaginable pain. But more than that, it is a story of survival, of resilience, of the unbreakable will to live. It is a story that reminds us to trust our instincts, to protect the vulnerable, to never stop searching, to never stop fighting, and to never ever give up. Because you never know when the next breath, the next heartbeat, the next moment of strength will be the one that saves you. Ashley Reeves survived. Against every odd, against every expectation, against every medical prediction. She survived. And today, she is here, living, breathing, thriving, raising her children, building her future, reclaiming everything that was nearly taken from her. And that, more than anything else, is what this case is really about. Not the darkness, not the violence, not the evil that tried to destroy her, but the light that refused to go out, the life that refused to end, the spirit that refused to break. If there is one thing to take away from the story of Ashley Reeves, let it be this. Do not ever give up. No matter how dark it gets, no matter how impossible it seems, no matter how much pain you are in or how alone you feel, do not give up. Because somewhere, somehow, there is still a chance. There is still hope. There is still a future waiting for you. And you deserve to see it. You deserve to fight for it. You deserve to survive, Ashley Reeves did. And so can you.